You want to be a guitar builder. Do something else. I'm going to tell you about my biggest mistake. Burn it. Welcome to Crimson Guitars, Luthier's tips, tools and training. I'm Ben Crowe. I am a guitar builder. Crimson is 20 this year. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled. There's going to be some stuff going on there. I've been doing this for a long time. And it is not easy. It can be incredible, but it's not easy. This is a multidisciplinary field. We are building things that have to perform on multiple fronts. Each facet of that is a skill in and of itself. You've got woodworking. Okay, whether you are using hand tools or CNC machines or just normal machines, every single branch of that, or all three, which is probably the wise way to do it, every single branch of that involves learning, knowing intimately how these things work. For example, I love hand tools. I love having the ability to pick up a chisel and shape some timber or, well, anything that you can cut with a chisel. It just excites me. But getting to the point where I can do that has taken a few decades of learning. When I first picked up hand planes, I could see the people around me using them to perfection. And I could never, ever achieve the same results. And it took me years to get there. And it is about knowing how to set the tool up, knowing whether the tool itself is actually functional, how flat the sole is, how thick the steel is of the blade, what the steel actually is made out of, all of these things. And that's just hand planes. We're now also talking about using routers and router tables. And I used to use angle grinders to carve guitar necks all the time. We still use them in the school a lot. I don't like the dust and the noise and avoid it as much as possible. I threw away a perfectly good, very expensive angle grinder because the bushes went. I had no clue. I still don't actually know what they're for or why they're there, so let me know in the comments. Hell, I'm embarrassed. And that's not even my biggest mistake. You've got to learn how the router works, what the functionalities, what it can do, what it can't do. The first router I bought for guitar building was a Dremel. And I thought that with a Dremel, I would be able to do both the inlay work and route out pickup cavities. And of course, the first guitar I was working on was Duke, I think. And yeah, I took the first cut, the second cut, and turned the machine off and hung my head and said, oh crap, okay, I need a router. And then putting the router bit in the router. You've got to be a certain amount in, otherwise it doesn't work and then it can fall out. And knowing that if a router bit falls out, it's actually not necessarily the end of the world. They tend to stay roughly where they are. They don't, for the most part. All of these little things are things that I've had to learn over many years while learning thousands of other little things. CNC machines don't even go there. It is a science in and of itself, learning how to program these things. It's not just being able to take a drawing and or create a shape or a design or a thing on the computer. It's then taking that CAD, computer-aided design, and turning it to CAM, computer-aided machining. That's a different program for the most part. Learning how to troubleshoot all of these, it is absolute insanity, worth doing. But holy shit. And that's just actually the 2 or 3 things that you would learn or need to know just to cut the wood. I have notes here about this, and I've wanted to make this video for years. We're working in timber. We need to know how that wood is going to react, not just as you're working it, not just what it's going to do while you're there, and know that you don't want to breathe that dust in, for example. When you're cutting on a bandsaw, sometimes the tension in the wood pulls it together and binds the bandsaw blade. The first time that happened, I thought the world was going insane. I thought physics had just gone out the window and the wood had decided to do something on purpose. I was living in a horror movie. I have a book, it's over an inch thick, just on how to set up bandsaws. So it's not only how the wood's going to do when you're working it, it's what it's going to do over time. Another mistake, I built a guitar and I bought wood at that point. This is many, many years ago. I didn't have a good timber store. I was working in a shed at the end of my garden, no moisture control, all of that jazz. I bought wood from a reputable timber supplier. It was a multi-laminate neck, 2 or 3 different species, and one of the laminates just wasn't dry enough. I didn't have moisture meters. I didn't have anything except trust in my supplier. At that point, I was making big old neck blanks, big enough to make 2 or 3 necks. The client got the neck that I made, and then I had this neck blank in storage to do something else with. Almost inevitably, never did anything with them, but the thought was there. A year later, that neck had twisted and warped. I think it was 8 millimeters off true, and I was horrified. I did not know that the wood wasn't dry enough. I did not know that grain orientation, even in a 7-piece, I think, multi-laminate neck, it wouldn't hold. And I told them it was bullshit. And then I went and I looked at this blank that I had, and I found that it wasn't. My blank, which was 3 times the size, had also twisted. And I had to remake the entire guitar, through neck or a deep set neck tenon, so the neck went all the way to the bridge. You've got to know the science of metallurgy. Brass. Why do we like brass nuts? We've got nickel silver frets, brass. Why don't we make nickel silver nuts? Hey, why don't we? Nickel silver is predominantly brass. How is this particular type of bridge going to work? Are we going to be able to get the sound that we want? This bridge is cheap, this bridge is expensive. What is the difference? They're both aluminium. Okay, well, actually, yeah. It's in the machining. Well, there's too many parts. How do all of these things interact? Finishing and metalwork, that's material science. Okay, we can watch Paul Reed Smith dropping nuts on a table and talking about incredibly thin finishes. His guitars tend towards a particular sound. I'm not going to go off on that rant. I'm not. We need to understand what the material that we're using is going to do to the guitar. And I'm talking predominantly about electric guitars here. Acoustic guitars, completely, I'm saying don't build guitars because there's so much involved in building electric guitars. Acoustics, orders of magnitude more. The finish. Does this finish interact well with this wood? Can I even finish this particular type of wood? How do I get an oily wood and apply finish to it? What can I do to make that work? What happens if I cook the wood? That's another material science. We're talking about torrefied wood. How is that done? Why does it do what it's doing? What's happening internally? What's happening on a molecular level to the wood to make it sound and act like we want it to? What are the detriments of torrefied wood? Yeah, it makes it more brittle. It chips out. It's a little bit more difficult, a little bit more dodgy to work. You have finer, yeah, you get what I'm talking about. And then we get to the fun stuff. Art. You're not necessarily building guitars just because you want to build guitars. You are building guitars because you want to make a tool. You want to make something that is going to create art. And if you're like me, you want the thing that is going to create the art to be as beautiful as humanly possible. We make some of the best guitar building tools in the world, and we make them more beautiful than they need to be. We put details on there that are non-functional, not because they have to be there, but because we want to be inspired by our tools. There is no need for us to have ebony end caps with the little sort of logo on there on each end. There's no need really for me to have spent all of that time working out how to nest these inlay chisels together. I have done it because it is sexy and because it inspires me. And you want to build guitars that are sexy and inspire you and your client to play and get the absolute utmost out of their art, which is the music. Learning how to take your ideas and translate them to art, it's a whole thing. Most of us don't want to copy a Telecaster and just make Telecasters forever. It's a great place to start. You're going to change things artistically, ergonomically. That's another science. When you're talking about the design, it's not only how it looks, it's how it functions, how it works. What can you do? Can you do anything to improve on the Telecaster? Yes, undeniably. Fight me in the comments. How do you translate your ideas to a build? You've got to learn how to make templates or learn how to run a laser cutter to make templates. At every single juncture, you've got multiple points where you can go off. This is the many worlds theory. You can go down a rabbit hole and say, okay, I don't like making templates by hand with rasps and things like that, and bearing cutters or guide bushes. Do you even know what a guide bush is? Google it. I want to get a laser cutter and cut my template on a laser cutter. Making that decision means that you need to A, invest in a laser cutter, B, learn how to use it, C, learn how to maintain the damn thing. What are the health and safety implications of having a laser cutter? The world is it's so interesting for makers now because we have relatively cheap, relatively easy access to these things that when I started building were millions of pounds and used by the defense industries. I have a laser cutter and I've got CNC machines, and yeah, it's insane and amazing, but it's a fractal thing. It just keeps on getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's intimidating and quite scary actually. You are having to learn how to take your ideas and then translate it to something that not only looks good, but works impeccably. If we're talking about art, look at the inlays. A good inlay artist is an artist who puts things on guitars, not a guitar builder who does inlays. And there are people that specialize in inlays, but most of us don't want to do that. We want to be generalists and we want to be amazing at all of these things. And that's kind of the point of this video. The phrase jack of all trades, master of none. A jack of all trades is a master of none. That is utter bullshit and is completely misquoted nowadays. The original phrase used to be, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but often is better than a master of one. You can have a physicist who understands to the atomic level how the universe works, who can't tie his shoelaces. You can have a businessman who can run a FTSE 100 company, but can't drive. And they hyper-focus on one thing to the detriment of everything else. Often interpersonal relationships is the first thing to go. We are in love with a craft where we are by definition generalists. And to be a generalist and to be able to sell what you're doing in that generalist field is really difficult because you have to be very good at every single one of these things. You have to understand the basics of various science, the science of ergonomics when you're talking about the design. What happens if I have a body without a horn? How can I make it sit on the strap better? Do I need a guitar strap? How do they work? What happens if I move the strap buttons? The science of acoustics and sound. If you're an acoustic guitar, what is happening there? Why is it actually doing it? What are the sides doing? Are they there? Do they create noise, or are they just there to hold things and let everything else? Like, I've read thesis after thesis on all of these things and understood some of it, maybe, possibly. Electronical engineering. People go to university to study this. The first person that taught me how to wire a guitar had done part of an electronics degree, and they put me off guitar electronics for years because they made it as opaque as humanly possible. Here's a tip. You don't need to understand why the capacitor is doing what it's doing. You just need to understand what it is doing, what the final result is going to be, and how to solder it. So spend your time learning how to solder. You don't need to spend decades or tens of hours trying to understand the science. If you're like me, I'm a chisel jockey. I understand the physical. And the biggest, to digress, the biggest thing that I learned about wiring was to follow the flow of the sound, I suppose, as it were. If I can visualize where the signal is going, I'm golden. Then on top of it, and I'm making this sound scary on purpose, on top of all of that, if you want to do this as a job, you need to understand marketing, SEO, psychology. You need to understand how people work, how to sell to people. And I'm doing a fantastic job of selling. Everything that Crimson does is about selling to guitar builders, selling tools to guitar builders, selling guitar building courses to guitar builders. We're one of the top guitar building schools in the world. We teach more people than anybody else. And here I am frightening you. How do you actually talk to real people? Many of us want to be in a workshop on our own with our tools making things. And we have to sell the guitars so we get to build more guitars. Accounts. How do you deal with all of the legislation, the various rules of the government where you are? How do you run a business? How do you employ people? What are the ins and outs, and how do you get around all of that sort of stuff? How do you do that? How do you make a living? Are you going to have to repair guitars for 3 days a week in order to get to build guitars for the other 8 days a week? Do you have enough self-control and self-knowledge to know when to do the repairs versus the build? I had no idea how to build websites. I commissioned a website. The first company I went to built a website. It was great. I was paying through the nose for this website that didn't do what I wanted it to do. I went to somebody else, read the reviews. He built this website. Go live date, went live. The other company killed the old website. Black screen. I spent 2 days learning how to build a website. Joomla. Again, says how old I am. I had to learn how to build a website. And this isn't in the days of WordPress and all of that. This is not drag and drop, but this is coding. I am not that guy. But I had to. This is when I was on my own. I didn't have anybody else working with me. I used to work from about 10 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in the workshop. I'd go home, have dinner, and then work from 7 o'clock to about 2 a.m. on marketing, on emails, on phone calls, on websites, on photography, cutting out all of the images. And a lot of this sort of stuff can be done much, much more effectively and easily and cheaply in the age in which we live. But I had to learn all of that sort of stuff in order to build the business to the point where it was actually a functional business. And I should have quit this many, many, many times over the years. I mentioned psychology, self-control. I'm currently in a room. I'm not sure if you can hear this fly, but I am controlling myself. I want to hunt it down with a sharp chisel. I tend to want to go and deep dive into a particular build or process, but I also need to do many, many other things. The videos that you see are the smallest part of my life, both personally and as a business. I've got many, many other things that I should be doing, but I love doing this, and I love sharing, and I love teaching and helping and inspiring and frightening people. I've grown up so much in the last 2 or 3 years, or 4 years. It's insane. I'm a completely different person because I suddenly and finally understand what my motivations are, how I am most effectively going to be put to use, and what I need in order to inspire me to get moving and get up and get in the workshop or get out of the workshop. That's psychology. That's another science. We've got ergonomics, we've got acoustic engineering, we've got electrical engineering, we've got physics, how wood reacts, metallurgy, wood, moisture content, how to dry wood. These are all sciences. These are all degrees. You could do a degree every 3 or 4 years for the rest of your life and still be learning stuff that is directly applicable to guitar building. I'm scaring myself right at this point. If you are still watching, if you still want to build guitars, either as a hobby or as a professional guitar builder, you 100% have what it takes. It is not easy, but very few things that are worth doing are. It is scary, but it is worth it. And I still maintain you need to do something else in order to facilitate the guitar building. My biggest mistake, my biggest, most fundamental error ever is that I thought that I could, from the word go, create this multifaceted thing and be happy with the final result. We are spending tens of hours making a very expensive, both to build and to buy, thing that is built up of all of these tiny little massive skills, all of these disparate things that go into guitar building, coalesce in this one item that has taken time and money and effort and thought and a lack of sleep. I have never been happy with a single instrument that I have built. Never 100% happy, at least. Because I jump straight in. I want a guitar, let's build a guitar. Okay. That was a noise. If you're starting out, buy yourself a pre-slotted fretboard. Hell, I don't even know if Crimson sells them. Buy yourself a kit neck and learn one part of the build at a time. I insisted that because I was amazing, I could start and build the entire thing from scratch. And my first guitars utterly sucked. They were barely there. Go away. Find as many beta guitars as you can. Ask your friends and family for instruments that are up in the loft or have been fallen behind a radiator or something, and learn and practice fretwork. Now, you can be building a guitar on the side, but by the time you get to the fretwork on your guitar, you need to have spent time practicing on that. I need little wins. I need to have a project or a part of a project that I can start and finish and get the win and the dopamine rush. And I think that the title says it all. Do something else. Sanding a guitar, for example. Just sanding seems like the most basic of processes. But I have lost count of the amount of guitars that I've seen where you can see 80 grit sanding marks underneath a perfect high gloss finish. Because the person who did the sanding did not understand how to actually sand. Because that guitar that they've spent 40 hours or 50 hours building is the first thing they've ever done with wood. Go and get a small piece of elm or rosewood or poplar or something and carve something. Make yourself a box. Make yourself 50 boxes. 50 small things that take an hour or two to make, that you then have to sand to perfection. It is teaching you how to sand. It is teaching you how to use a router or a chisel. If you mess up on your guitar, you've messed up on your guitar and you've got to learn how to fix the mistake. And that is the other thing that defines a professional guitar builder, somebody who knows how to get out of a the jam that they've just put themselves into. I do it all the time. If that mistake is on a box or a piece of wall art or something like that, it is much, much better for you. And you know then, when you get to the guitar, how the chisel works, how to sand something. Inlay is a perfect case in point. I always thought that it was a waste of my time to spend any time inlaying something that I'm just going to put on a mantelpiece. But that is not the case. If you want to do a fantastic inlay, go and make art. Take your idea for the guitar inlay and do it 5 or 6 or 7 times. It will get better every single time. By the time you create something for a client, it is going to be perfect. And you will have learned so much on those small projects. And I still feel like it's a waste of my time to sit down of an evening and do something that isn't for a video, isn't for a guitar build directly. But I've been doing it more and more over the last 4 or 5 months. And I can see the difference in my builds now, and I've been building guitars for 20 years. I have never been better as a luthier than I am now, and it's entirely because I'm also spending time making jewelry, doing pottery and ceramics, playing around with glass. If I teach you nothing else, it is this most basic of things that most people probably already know, and it is practice. But practice on something that has substance, that has value to you, that is going to be something that you want to keep and look at or share or give away. Make inlaid birthday presents for people. Take basic, if we're talking about inlay, take some, a small piece of veneer and do some marquetry. It's quick, it's cheap, it's easy, and you can make a marquetry birthday card for your mother. In fact, you should. Go away and make a birthday card for your mother. Even if her birthday's in 6 months, you don't want to forget that shit. My biggest mistake has always been that I have an idea and I follow that idea through to the absolute utmost. Okay, I want to build guitar. I want to have a massive guitar factory. I want to be world famous as a guitar builder. I want to make tens of thousands of guitars, and that's the goal. And I forget all of the tiny little pieces in between where I am and where I want to be. And I start work on the giant project before I've actually got a handle of all of the small component parts. So if you want to be a fantastic inlay artist, practice it on small things. If you want to be able to make the best playing guitars on the planet, practice fretwork. Don't wait until you've got something that absolutely matters, that is worth thousands of pounds and thousands of hours of your time or dozens of hours of your time. In my case, it still needs to have substance, it still needs to have value, it still needs to be something that you can do something with. I have rebuilt so many guitars. I have repeated myself so many times in this video. If I had only stopped, planned ahead, and practiced what I wanted to do in a small way beforehand, I would have saved, at this point, probably years of my life. So go and build guitars, go and set up a guitar building business. At every single juncture, look at it and say, what would this look like if it was easy? I want to be a fantastic inlay artist. And what is the easiest way to become a fantastic inlay artist? Can I commission drawings? Am I good at drawing? Do I need to go and do drawing classes in the evening so that I can translate it? Do I need to learn how to draw on computer? Actually think about things. My mistake has always been that I don't think. I just do. And that's changing. Thank you for watching. In the background, there have been loads of images and video of me building various things over the years. Every single one of those instruments could have been better if I had just taken a little bit of time before I built them. I'm still happy. I wouldn't change my life. But I could be a better builder now. I would be a better builder now if I had done all of those things. Have a fantastic day. Go to the workshop and build your mother a birthday card. Make some dust. But don't build a guitar. Build something else. I love you guys. Have a good one. Goodbye. Thank you for watching. Crimson Guitars, crimsonguitars.com. Follow us, tweet, share, and discuss in the comments. Cheers.